like, comment.
Subscribe if you dare step deeper into the darkness. The alarms were still echoing across downtown Denver when Detective Mara Ellison pushed through the swarm of flashing lights and uniformed officers. A cold November wind whipped past her coat, carrying the sharp smell of metal, dust, and something she couldn't quite name. On the rooftop above her, a helicopter's searchlight burned through the night, as if hunting something that had already disappeared. 3 blocks away, an armored transport van sat crashed against a concrete barrier, steam hissing from its radiator. The windshield looked as if something inside had shattered it outward. The back doors hung open, chains dangling, cut clean, too clean, Mara thought, like someone had planned this down to the last second. The escaped inmate's name had already hit the police radios before she arrived. Dr. Adrian Locke, the man federal agents called America's Real-Life Hannibal. A clinical psychologist turned manipulator, known not for physical brutality, but for orchestrating crimes through others, silently, patiently, without ever laying a hand on his victims. He had been locked away under the highest possible restrictions. Cameras, restraints, constant supervision. And still, he had vanished from a moving prison transport in the middle of a major city. Mara stepped closer to the van, her boots crunching over broken glass. "How long since the escape?" she asked an officer. 6 minutes before we arrived, he said. Whole thing lasted less than 20 seconds. 20 seconds, she whispered. No struggle signs. No blood. No desperate scramble. Only the eerie image of ordered, deliberate disappearance, as if Locke had simply stepped out of custody and into the night. As Mara walked around the vehicle, she noticed something strange taped to the steel interior wall, a playing card. A single card from a standard deck, carefully placed, as if waiting to be found. The Queen of Hearts. On the card's blank white border were 2 handwritten words. "You're late." Mara's chest tightened. She knew the message was for her. Locke had studied hundreds of patients, victims, and investigators as part of his pre-prison career. But she was the one he had fixated on after his conviction, the detective who refused to be manipulated by him, who refused to be drawn into the games he loved to play. Before she could speak, another officer jogged toward her. "Detective Ellison, you need to see this." He led her toward an alley just off the crash site. The narrow passage was dim, washed in the cold glow of blue police lights. Cardboard boxes lay pushed aside, forming a strange path leading deeper into the darkness. At the end of the alley, a man sat on the wet ground, hands cuffed behind his back. He wasn't injured, he was trembling. His eyes darted around as if he had just escaped something worse than arrest. Mara crouched in front of him. "What happened?" He swallowed hard, voice shaking. I didn't mean to help him. He told me things about myself. Things no one else knows. He said if I didn't do exactly what he said, someone I care about would." Mara raised a hand gently. "Just tell me what he made you do." The man took a shaky breath. "I cut the chains. I opened the doors. He didn't threaten me. He just talked. Like he knew exactly what would break me. But he didn't run." The man's voice lowered to a whisper. He walked. Slow. Like he had nowhere else to be. A chill crept up Mara's spine. Locke had vanished into the biggest city in Colorado, and he wasn't hiding. He was moving with purpose. She stood, turning the clues over in her mind. The Queen of Hearts. The calm escape. The strange influence he still seemed to have over strangers. This wasn't a man running for freedom. This was a man executing a plan. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. A photo. Mara opened it and felt her stomach turn cold. The image was of ADX Florence, the most secure federal prison in America, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. The photo had been taken at sunset, shadows stretching across razor wire and concrete towers. But it wasn't the prison that chilled her. It was the timestamp. Tomorrow. 5:17 a.m. A moment that hadn't happened yet. A moment Locke wanted her to witness. Before she could react, another message appeared under the first. "You know why I'm going back. You just forgot what you buried." Mara's breath caught. He wasn't escaping from ADX. He was going toward it, toward something waiting inside those walls. Something connected to her, something she didn't remember, or maybe didn't want to. She turned to the officers nearby. Lock down all outbound and inbound roads. Contact the Bureau of Prisons. ADX needs a full tactical alert. Already on it, one replied. But detective, why would he go back to the most secure prison in the country? Mara didn't answer. Because she didn't know. Because Locke had set something in motion years before his imprisonment, something she had unknowingly walked into. Something still hidden in the silence of ADX's concrete corridors. She looked again at the timestamp. 5:17 a.m. Whatever happened at that moment, he wanted her there. And Locke never moved a single piece on his chessboard without meaning. Mara felt it in her bones. His escape wasn't the beginning. It was the middle. The real story, the real horror, the real truth, was inside ADX. But she had no idea just how deep, or how personal, this case was about to become. Because when they opened the sealed inmate records the next morning, one file inside didn't belong to any prisoner. It belonged to her. The car ride to ADX felt too quiet, too still, like the world itself was bracing for something it didn't know how to face. Detective Mara Ellison sat in the passenger seat of the unmarked SUV, watching a cold dawn bleed across the Colorado desert plains. The razor-wired towers of ADX Florence slowly rose in the distance, a gray monolith against a dying night. Beside her, Special Agent Cole Ramirez from the FBI glanced down at the manila folder resting in her hands. "You sure you want to open that now?" She didn't answer. The folder had been discovered at ADX the moment federal officers initiated the lockdown, a file mysteriously placed inside the prison's sealed internal records room. No one could explain how it got there. No forced entry. No security footage. No prints. Just a file with her name stamped across the cover. Mara finally opened it. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Her childhood home. Her parents' old grocery store. A picture of her at age 13, standing next to a science fair project. Another photo. Her at 17, outside the police academy orientation seminar she attended years before she ever joined law enforcement. Cole watched her face tighten. Locke's been inside ADX for 8 years. There's no way he got these. Unless they were already here, Mara said quietly. Cole hesitated. Why would files on your life be inside the most secure prison in America? Mara didn't know. But she felt the answer looming like a shadow she had spent years trying not to turn toward. As they approached the heavily fortified entrance, the sun broke over the horizon, casting the prison in a cold blue glow. ADX Florence looked less like a building and more like a bunker built to contain nightmares. Guards moved along the perimeter. An announcement echoed through the intercoms. Code Black. All movement restricted. All units report. They were preparing for him. Inside the central command room, Warden Elias Marrow stood with his arms crossed, staring at the enormous monitor wall displaying every inch of ADX. He was a man carved from stone, gray hair, stern eyes, posture that never relaxed. He didn't look up when Mara and Cole entered. Locke has been sighted, he said immediately. 2 miles east of the facility. Not running. Walking. Like he's coming home, Cole muttered. Warden Marrow finally turned toward Mara. Detective Ellison, we found something else in that file of yours. He handed her a single sheet. A visitor log. Her breath stilled. Her name was written on it. A visit she never made. A date from 5 years ago, the first year Locke arrived at ADX. Cole looked at her. You ever visit him? No, Mara said, voice low. Never. Then who signed your name? Before they could speculate further, an alarm blared. A guard at the monitor station stood abruptly. Sir, motion sensors at Sector 4. Someone just stepped inside the outer courtyard. The camera zoomed. Mara felt her chest tighten. Dr. Adrian Locke stood in the courtyard, hands clasped calmly behind his back, his prison uniform somehow spotless despite his escape. His face held a faint, chilling smile. He's surrendering? Cole whispered. But Mara shook her head. No. He's not surrendering. He's arriving. Warden Marrow activated the external speakers. Locke, you are trespassing on federal property. Lie down on the ground immediately. Locke looked directly up at the nearest camera, as if he could see through it and find Mara on the other side, and mouthed a single word. Finally, Mara felt the air leave her lungs. Locke slowly raised his hands. Not in surrender. In timing, as though he were counting down. 3,
2, 1.
The power grid inside ADX flickered. For a moment, every monitor turned black. When the screens came back online, Sector 4's courtyard was empty. Locke was gone. Check all cameras, the warden barked. But all cameras were working. None showed him leaving. It was as if he had stepped into the courtyard and dissolved into the prison itself. Cole muttered, he planned this from the transport. The escape wasn't the trick. Getting back in was. Mara's jaw tightened. He wants us to follow him. He wants me to. Warden Marrow looked at her. Detective, be honest. What is your connection to this man? I don't have one. But even she didn't believe it. Before anyone could ask more, a guard rushed in with a printout from the biometric scanners. Sir, we picked up a movement signature inside Block C, Cell C-51. Warden Marrow frowned. There is no inmate in C-51. That cell is sealed. It's been sealed since. He stopped short. His eyes shifted toward Mara. She stepped closer. Since when? The warden swallowed, hesitant. Since the inmate who occupied that cell was transferred to a psychiatric facility. Years ago. It's protocol to seal the room if we receive a high-risk evaluation. What inmate?
Cole asked.
Warden Marrow exhaled. A man named Daniel Ellison. Mara froze. Cole's head snapped toward her. Ellison? Mara. My brother, she whispered, voice barely audible. A silence settled over the room that felt like the air itself had turned to stone. Cole stepped closer to her. Your brother died in an accident when you were a kid. That's what I was told, Mara said. But I never saw a body. I never saw the report. I just believed them. Her voice cracked. Warden Marrow looked deeply troubled. Detective, I didn't know he was related to you. It was classified. Daniel Ellison wasn't transferred. He wasn't moved. He was declared mentally unfit and held under isolation for 7 years.
He paused.
He died in that cell. Mara's hands shook. Locke had broken into ADX for one reason. Not freedom. Not vengeance. Not escape.
Truth.
The biometric alert printed again. Cell C-51 had been opened. By an inmate's access code. Adrian Locke's. Mara felt her entire world tilt, darken, rearrange. Because if Locke was inside her brother's sealed cell, then whatever was waiting for her inside Block C shadows was the reason he had come back. The reason he had escaped. The reason he had chosen her. And when she reached the entrance of C Block, the lights flickered again, just once, enough to reveal a message scrawled across the wall in charcoal black letters. You were never late, Mara. You were kept away. Something moved in the darkness ahead. A figure stepping forward. She raised her flashlight, breath trembling as the beam landed on her brother's face. For a moment, Mara couldn't breathe. The beam from her flashlight trembled as it settled on the figure standing at the far end of the corridor. Pale skin, sunken eyes, the faint outline of restraint scars along the wrists. The man's hair was longer now, streaked with gray, but the face was unmistakable. Daniel Ellison. Her brother. The brother she had mourned more than 20 years ago. Danny. Her voice cracked on the name. How are you? A hand touched her shoulder. Agent Cole Ramirez. Mara, that's impossible. It can't be him. He died. Mara whispered.
Yes.
That's what they told me. That's what everyone told me. Daniel took a slow step forward, the faint echo of his bare footsteps lingering in the concrete hall. They told you what they needed you to believe. Mara's heart slammed against her ribs. Behind her, the warden barked into his radio. All teams converge on Block C. Don't, Daniel said softly. The lights above them flickered. For half a second, everything went dark. And when they snapped back on, every guard's radio went silent. Cole muttered under his breath. Locke. He's manipulating the system. He wants this moment. Mara stepped toward her brother. Danny, I don't understand. Why were your files here? Why say you died? Why lock you in ADX? He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he turned and pointed deeper into the hall, to the infamous cell C-51, a cold steel door, its locking mechanisms twisted open, as if someone had carefully dismantled them from the inside. Everything started in that room, Daniel said. Everything they did to me. Everything they hid from you. Mara's pulse pounded in her ears. She approached the door. Even before she crossed the threshold, she felt it. The weight of years, the stale air, the sense that this cell had soaked up secrets like blood into concrete. Except there was no blood. No violence. Nothing that violated the limits of what could be shown. Only silence. A thick, suffocating silence. And writing. Words covering the entire back wall, written in charcoal, pencil, even scratches carved into the surface. A single phrase repeated hundreds of times. Tell her the truth. Mara nearly collapsed. Daniel's voice was fragile. I wrote that for years. Every day. Every night. Until Locke arrived. She turned.
Locke.
What does he have to do with you? Daniel shook his head slowly. Everything. Behind them, footsteps echoed, calm, steady, deliberate. Mara didn't need to turn to know who it was. Dr. Adrian Locke emerged from the shadows of the corridor, hands raised slightly, not in surrender, but in quiet acknowledgement. He looked at Daniel with something almost like admiration. Then he looked at Mara. It's good to see the two of you reunited, Locke said softly. It took a great deal of planning. Cole lunged forward. Locke, get on the ground. Locke didn't flinch. Agent Ramirez, if you step any closer, the prison's internal doors will seal, and you'll never get out. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Cole froze. Locke turned back to Mara. You've spent years asking what made you become the detective you are. Why your instincts feel sharpened by something you can't name. Why you're drawn to cases involving manipulation, control, silence. He stepped closer. Because you witnessed something when you were young. Something traumatic. Something your mind buried. Something your guardians hid. Mara shook her head.
No.
I would remember something like that. You did, Locke said. For a moment, before they took it away. Daniel whispered. Do you remember the night the store burned? Mara's blood turned to ice. I was 8, she said slowly. I was sleeping. The neighbors said it was electrical. I never. No, Daniel said. You weren't asleep. You saw what happened. Her knees weakened. Locke spoke softly, like a surgeon explaining an operation. Your parents ran a small grocery store.
But someone wanted the land.
Someone powerful. They threatened. They extorted. When your father refused to sell, they sent men to make an example. Mara's heartbeat slammed against her ribs as fragments of memory flooded her mind. Flames, shouts, her father's voice, her mother pulling her toward the back door. She gasped. The men saw you, Daniel said quietly. They knew you were a witness. They would have killed you. So the government placed you in protective identity restructuring. They erased everything. Changed your records. Hid you from the world. Mara staggered. I can't. And Daniel? Locke's eyes gleamed with cold intelligence. He didn't fit their plan. He remembered too much. He searched for you. And when he got too close to the truth, they put him here. The place where inconvenient people disappear without explanation. Daniel's voice broke. I begged them to tell you I was alive. They refused. So I wrote on the walls. Every day, hoping someone would listen. Mara's vision blurred with tears. Locke stepped back slightly. I didn't break out to escape. I broke out to bring you here. To finish what they started hiding. To return the truth that was stolen from you. Cole stepped forward, voice shaking.
Why Locke?
Why help her? Locke smiled, not wicked, not triumphant. Calculated. Because the men who burned down that store? They were the same men who came to me for therapy years later. They confessed things I was never supposed to hear. And when I tried to expose them, He gestured around. They put me in here too. Mara stared at him, stunned. Locke continued. This prison is their vault. Their graveyard for secrets. Your past is one of them. The intercom crackled to life. Warden Marrow's voice thundered through the corridors. Everyone freeze. Tactical teams are inside Block C. Hands where we can see them. The spell shattered. Locke raised his hands. Detective, whether they believe you or not, the truth is now awake. They can silence me. They can silence him. Daniel looked at his sister with a heartbreaking calm. But they can't silence you. Guards stormed in. Locke didn't resist. Neither did Daniel. Before they were separated, Daniel whispered, "Find the red notebook." Dad hid it under the floorboards of the store's old foundation. It has names.
Dates.
Everything. Then he was pulled away. Locke was shackled, escorted back towards solitary. Mara stood frozen, surrounded by agents and guards shouting orders. Cole touched her arm gently. "Mara, are you okay?" She wiped her tears, steadied her breathing, and straightened her coat. "No," she said quietly. "But I know what I have to do." She looked down the hall where her brother had disappeared. "Everything," Locke said. "I'm going to prove it." As she walked out of ADX Florence, the sun rising over the razor wire, the sky turning a faint, hopeful blue, she felt something she hadn't felt since childhood. Purpose. But 3 months later, as she knelt at the ruins of her parents' old store, sifting through dust and cracked wood, she found the floorboards. She found the loose plank. She found the red notebook. And inside it, the first page held a name she never expected to see. A name crossed out in black ink. Agent Elias Marrow. The same name as the warden. She stared at the page, heart racing, as one final realization hit her. The real story wasn't over. It had just begun. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.